Greetings, Hastings viewers. I'm Mike Bramer with HCTV, and today I am here with Interim Superintendent Dr. Jeff Pesta. Jeff, how are we doing?
Just fine, Mike. Happy to be here with you.
Cool. Thanks.
Of course, you're here in the district office, so happy to have you here with us.
Yeah, at least I'm not in the principal's office again, because that's a little bit familiar from all those years ago.
Well, I'm sure there's a statute of limitations where you're no longer held responsible for your various offenses at this point.
Excellent. So first of all, tell me a little bit about your background, your education, maybe for starters.
Okay. Well, kind of education. I actually grew up in New Prague, Minnesota, and so my education kind of started with the military. So
wow.
I was a little young for my class. I graduated when I was 17.
Yep.
And I knew that I wanted to go to college, and first generation college student, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do or how I was going to pay for it.
Yeah.
So I ended up enlisting in the Army, which back in '82, that wasn't really the most popular thing to do. My best friend and I both enlisted in the military, and we were the only ones in our class that did that.
Wow.
So over the course of 6 years of active duty combined with reserve duty, I was able to pay for a bachelor's degree, and so that's kind of, military launched me into education.
Awesome.
I ended up getting a bachelor's degree at what was called Mankato State at the time in biology and business administration, and I just always had a love of science and biology. I grew up on I grew up on a hobby farm, but
cool.
Most of my other relatives were, actual dairy farmers.
I can relate. I live on a dairy farm myself.
In fact, every relative I had was a farmer, for a profession. And so, you get a love for nature, love for animals and plants and being outside and everything. So, but I had a great science teacher that I had through middle school and high school, also was a coach. And he just looked like he was having so much fun teaching. Those were my favorite classes. Yeah. But I just couldn't convince myself to go into education. So I went into science instead. And spent a few years doing field research for the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration.
Wow.
We'll know that as NOAA.
Okay.
It's part of the Commerce Department. And all around Alaska, Asia, the North Pacific, and continued to do that. Actually, technically, I could still go out and do that today. I haven't done a project for about 5 years.
So you're probably a big fisherman too, then I assume.
I like to fish. I don't know what my credentials qualify me for, but working in the fisheries research is really fascinating. And I continued as an educator to go out in the summer or whenever I could take a break and get on a shorter research project. So I still have the opportunity to do that if I can in the future. Cool. But that changed when, after a couple of years of doing that, I had a wedding date set with my girlfriend that I met in college, and just living out on the ocean for months at a time was really not going to work with that. So I decided that that calling to be an educator and to teach science and have the same kind of fun that this influential teacher seemed to be having was a good idea. So I went to the University of Minnesota for a post-baccalaureate program where you come in with a bachelor's degree that's not in education. They help you get your license in the field that you want to, and you work at the same time towards getting a master's degree. So I got a master's degree in science education from the University of Minnesota, and I did my final student teaching practicum in the Burnsville High School. Yep. And so I ended up getting hired on there and spent 7 years in the Burnsville education system before I kind of launched out and took my first principal job. Yep. And so since then I've had 18 years working as a principal. And now at the end of this year it'll be 6 years as a superintendent. Yeah. So how did all these positions kind of prepare you to become a superintendent? Well, they all kind of happen unintentionally. Yeah. You're committed to the mission of a school or a school district, and something happens. They need somebody to take a step up into a leadership position, and kind of talk you into it. And before you know it, you're knee deep in that, and then another opportunity comes along. Yeah. So everything from influences growing up, work ethic and things like that I picked up from the people around me, to love of education and understanding the value of education. In the military, I learned a lot about leadership, obviously, and taking on different positions with progressive leadership kind of prepare you for the next step, whether
Sure.
you were planning on taking it or not. When it happens, hopefully you've absorbed enough from the models that you had around you and the things that you worked on, even though if you weren't the primary leader, if you were working to support that mission, you see a lot about what what leadership entails, and so you're not that caught off guard when it becomes your turn to do it or when you're asked to do it.
So what excited you about the Hastings position when you saw that? What kind of excited you to get you to apply for that?
Well, I knew it would be a big challenge, and quite honestly, the concept of an interim position doesn't appeal to everybody. But I had just done that before in the Canyon-Wanamingo School District, where I was completing my doctorate, and I was the principal at the Northfield Middle School, and I needed to take a little bit of time to process. I had basically 3 years of research that I'd done on my thesis, and collecting data both in Minnesota and in Mexico and the state of Veracruz. So I had all this data, and like, now you need to write. So after weeks of kind of trying to sit down at about 11, 12 at night and write a few pages, it just you just don't have the focus or the energy to do it. So I asked for a leave so I could finish it, so that I wouldn't lose my momentum. The only opportunity I had was to take a year unpaid leave of absence, which I guess they were kind of surprised that I said, yeah, I'll take it. And I finished defending the dissertation. After 5.5 months, I had it all done and wrapped up, and still had 6.5 months before I could come back to my job. And so the very next morning after I was finished at St. Thomas with the dissertation defense, I guess. I just looked in the one ads, and there was interim principal needed at Canyon-Wanamingo schools, and I knew that was just one district south of where I lived in Northfield. So I went and talked to them and agreed to help them out as an interim. 3 months into that, the superintendent passed away, unfortunately, and they asked me to take on the superintendent role as well. And then they talked me into staying there, and I never went back to Northfield. So having been in that interim role and then having to actually apply to become the permanent superintendent is something that most people will never go through, and I was very comfortable with it. So when the Hastings interim position came up, I thought, this is a great opportunity. There's no guarantees that it leads to anything, but it's just a great learning opportunity, and it's, once again, it's close to where I'm currently living, and I could get here easily. So I came in and met with the school board and a few other people, and was convinced that this was a great opportunity to do it as the interim. And I guess at some point today we'll talk a little bit about what the school board has in mind for filling it as a regular superintendent position. So what have been your initial impressions of Hastings and the school district? Because you haven't been here too long yet, so what are your initial thoughts? All right, well, not too surprisingly, it does have a lot of similar qualities to Northfield because of its size and its location in the state. And there are two communities that I think that really appreciate history because they have so many significant parts of Minnesota history embedded in their community. There are a lot of people who stick around the community throughout different stages of their lives or come back at different stages of their lives. So I think they have those kind of things in common. The exurban location, the combination of agricultural-based economy with other aspects of economy, and out here you've obviously got the not only the transportation corridors, but you've got the energy industry and some other industry. So just a lot of opportunity, I think, right now in the Hastings area. I think that the district is ready to do some steps that are a part of the evolution of a school district, where you step back and really determine what's going to be the focus of your mission and your vision, and what do you want the school district to look like, how will you brand your district, how will you market your district, what are the big goals that you can unite everybody in the organization and the community on. And so I think they're really poised to take that step right now, and so that's kind of exciting, even as an interim, working with the school board and saying, okay, what are you ready to do right now, and then what's your next step, and I think that both the school board and the school district and the community I get the sense they're ready to really jump into the next phase of what they become as a district, and so that's exciting to be a part of that.
Do you feel it's hard for you to maybe set goals or have a vision knowing that you might not be here for an extended period of time? How do you kind of deal with that?
And I don't think it's for everybody.
Yeah.
And I just try to ground myself every day in, is what I'm putting energy into good for the district, no matter what? Is it a good long-term investment? Some things obviously just have to be done by somebody, and then some things kind of chipping away at some precursors to what's next to follow. And also, we seated a new school board in January, and some people would think, well, some of those are ongoing board members. I would say yes, but it's still a new school board. You know, it's kind of like you know, the philosophers. I'm trying to think of which philosopher it was, but said you never step in the same river twice, because both the river and the person have changed. Well, school boards change every time you change the personnel, or the personnel, the representatives, the directors. It becomes a different school board. So this is a brand new school board, regardless of experience. And so that's something that somebody needs to help support that brand new school board. And I think having some experience in working with school boards for 24 years now, I can give them some perspective. Because I work for them, I don't tell them we're doing this or we're doing that, but I can help guide them. It's a big facilitation role because they're elected officials, but they're supposed to be very part-time. They end up a little bit more.
Sometimes the meetings go a little long. We film them.
Than they think they're going to be.
4-hour meeting.
And so we try to make it so that's efficient use of their time. That they can stay at the governance level, doing the big picture things and guiding the district. But we don't want them to get bogged down in the details of you know, what actually happens at the district level, because you know, it's not the model, but it's also just they don't have time. They're not compensated to do that. So we want to keep them up there, really representing their constituency at that governance level.
So do you have any kind of projects right now that you're kind of working on, or smaller goals, or is there something in particular that's kind of interesting that you're tackling right now?
Well, it's a little bit difficult to describe, but one of the things is, because there's been a lot of change and some distressful things that have happened over the past year or two, just really trying to put a little energy into the notion that there is going to be change in Hastings. Everything evolves. We're ready for the next evolution, and we want to have our energy moving forward because that's where it's going to yield the most return. And so that's a very obtuse kind of description of a project, but it's to put some energy into preparing people for what's going to come next strategically for the district. And then I've just been chipping away at some things, systems-based things, where maybe the systems could use some improvement because it's 2020, so we want efficient systems that align with 2020, the technology that we use. A redefinition of what every employee in the district does, because of things that have evolved. They should be doing their job a little bit differently. Once again, how does it match 2020? And also really working with the preparing students for this 21st century learning mentality that even not only parents who kind of want to help students, their children, through an experience that they think is similar to their school experience, but also teachers, if they're and other educational staff, if they're veterans, they still will sometimes kind of tend back to, okay, this worked for me, it'll work for you, and we really want to get out of that mindset and let students kind of pull themselves towards what's going to be their future, and that we're there to facilitate it rather than to push them or pull them ourselves as the educational institution. And that's a big shift, a big paradigm shift. And so that's one thing we're trying to chip away at small things to let people know that we're going to be taking a bigger strategic bite out of that here in the very near future. And that's going to happen regardless of who's on the school board or who the superintendent is. Those are things that are bound to happen here in Hastings next.
Yep. So what are some of the ways you're kind of integrating yourself into the school district? Is there any maybe extracurricular school activities you've been attending or anything like that?
Yeah, so I was fortunate enough to spend 3 full days here working with the outgoing superintendent, Tim Collins, to get familiar with people and get introduced and oriented to where things were. And then January, I actually was still responsible for the Kenyon-Wanamingo School District. So the school board here was nice enough to make sure that if I needed to take vacation or just understand that, like, at night I was doing paperwork for them and keeping that district going until they could transition out, and they thought that, you know, they needed to do that to support the district that was losing a superintendent. So January was pretty busy covering both of those. And on the Hastings side, it was really a get acquainted kind of thing, just learn as much as I can, soak up as much as I could about the district. Now February is kind of flipped over to, in the annual cycle of what a school district does, is there are things that just absolutely have to be done. So now it's like, okay, now that we know each other, let's get this stuff done, because we're not going to have a very good school year next year if we don't meet all the deadlines that we have. So we really got out all the calendars for different departments and talked about these things will be done on this date. So February is a big get it done month. And then March is the month where the school board is really working on identifying who their regular superintendent is going to be, and doing big things like approving the staffing for the upcoming year, approving the budget that we'll use for the upcoming year. So they'll have to roll up their sleeves in March and April to get those things done as well.
Cool. I understand you know about technology. You've maybe he's laughing.
I know about it. I've heard about it. Yeah.
I understand you helped. If my research is correct, you helped with like the development of a website, a district website in the past, and I think you started a Twitter handle for the Hastings School District or something like that. What are your thoughts on social media and just technology?
Well, it's interesting that kind of the press release or whatever, that some of the things that I did that had to do with construction and budgets and whatever really weren't emphasized because maybe they don't sound as exciting, where some of the other things like kind of rebranding a district and developing the tools to do that, like redesigning a website, implementing social media use, and things that were strategic for the Kenyon-Wanamingo district, because they were not only a vast rural district that was slowly losing enrollment because family farms, family size just isn't exactly the same as it has been in the past, like a little bit smaller. They were also, because they were a large district, they were losing enrollment to neighboring districts. And so we really had to focus on, you can't just expect people to show up at your school district. You need to focus on your quality and then get the message out that what programming you have and what the advantage of your district is, and how you can best serve students. So a lot of stuff like that, even redoing a logo. Just never had that on my radar as something I'd be working on, but out of necessity, you learn a lot about those things. So coming into Hastings, we know that the school board and the district itself is not really ready for any like radical changes on anything until they've got a strategic plan in place. But we've chipped away at some of those things. So you asked about activities. I've just been trying to go out as often as I can to see anything. There's so many things going on in Hastings. So last week I was at a hockey game. And I went to the Christmas concert that the choirs did, just amazing. Friday I'm going to wrestling.
I've heard you're even swinging into schools for just lunch with.
Well, I'm going to schools,
students.
So
school lunch is good.
I've been to all the schools, and some of them many times. And I tried, if I'm not bogged down with something, I try to go eat lunch in one of the schools.
That's great.
And that's a lot of fun. And then just trying to make myself available to people. A lot of people just come up to me, like they see me and they come up and just say, hey, thanks for being here, or here's something that's important to us. I've had people just contact me and say, I need to come in and talk to you. I have something really important that I want to talk to you about. So I make a meeting with them. In the big picture of the 1,000 things that the district needs to work on, was that thing maybe the most important thing in that list? Perhaps not. But to that person, whether it's a community member or a staff member, it was important. They wanted to talk about it, and it's an education for me. So it's everything I hear is very helpful. So I've been trying to do a lot of that, And one little thing that we did was, I looked at, as an outsider coming in and trying to navigate the district website, you see that sometimes it ends up getting built for internal users and not really considering the external users as much, because people know where to go. What about people who are considering moving here, considering enrolling here, considering working here? How easy is it for them to find things? So we've been starting to talk preliminarily about that. And one of the things that I did say was, if you want people to go to your main web page and then quickly find things off of that, you kind of have to have a reason for them to go to that web page.
In the first place,
And so one thing that we've done is we put a Twitter feed on the bottom of the main page, where I'm just monitoring a timeline of other people in the Hastings community that are tweeting things out, and then I retweet them so that I know that it's appropriate to go on the district website. Or if I'm out some places, I'll take a photo and put a caption on it or whatever and post that too. So so there's a reason to go there, and then when you're there, you catch to like, oh, well, they're doing a survey for the superintendent search. Okay, now we got them at the website. Hopefully they'll click on that and fill out that to fulfill that desire of the school board.
So we're in Minnesota. There's a lot of snow that happens. Snow days, cold days. I've heard e-learning days are a newer thing that's been implemented. I don't know, maybe last year, this year. But if I understand right, they haven't happened quite yet. If people don't know what is an e-learning day? What is that?
That's a great question.
Maybe you don't know yet.
Oh no. Well, we didn't have them in Kennewanna-Mingo.
Yeah.
And I realized, with the wide open agricultural area of 221 square miles, you're going to have some weather disruptions. And so how can we take advantage of e-learning to not only deal with those disrupted days, but we also had other disrupted days for state tournaments or hosting music events, whatever, where you disrupt the school day. Early, late starts, early dismissals, whatever. So that was at the time that the legislature was considering actually allowing schools to count a day of e-learning as a day of school. So we developed that system. It's not an easy thing for an organization to transition to. You just have to be willing to go through the difficult process of getting it started and putting your stuff out there. And one of the things that we did right away is we had the Teachers Association agreed to do practice days. So like on the Martin Luther King holiday, we have to decide, are you going to have school? And if you have school, then you do programming. And same with President's Day and some of these other holidays where school districts decide if they're going to have school or not. We agreed that it would be a holiday, but we'd do it as a practice distance learning day. We'd put it on the calendar, everybody knew. And we did that for 3 years until last year hit, and we did have a practice day set up, but we ended up having 11 full days canceled where we just absolutely could not get kids to or back from school. And having practiced that and then putting it into application, everybody knew that every single weather day was automatically an e-learning day. They knew where to go because they'd practice it. The teachers got better at finding just the right kind of assignments to put out there and the right way to track attendance and everything. So in a year like last year, we didn't have to make up any school days because we used the 5 e-learning days. The other 6 were moving the learning needle, even though it wasn't as good as having a regular day, but they moved the learning needle. And we just felt that because we didn't need to make up any days because of the e-learning days, that there was no advantage in extending the school year. So everybody's been, in that district, has been really happy with that. Get to the Hastings side, this is the first year where they've got e-learning in place, so they're kind of 5 years behind where we were with that. So I can, I have that advantage of, some experience to say, this is probably what it's going to look like, and it's going to be messy, and you have to go through that. You definitely should be planning on practicing because they were hoping, well, we're going to practice it this year. We've got it in place. So we're hoping that the wind doesn't blow too terribly and drift too much on Thursday so that we'll have a regular school day. No school Friday, no school Monday. So now here we are at President's Day with no school cancellations. Spring break on March 23rd, I believe it starts. And they have a built-in free snow day in their calendar. So they may never get to e-learning this year. And that's a year without them being able to practice it. So I've already been talking to the school board about let's build the practice days, and it's a tremendous advantage. Let's do it on days that were already disrupted or already wouldn't be having so that the bar of expectation is really low, but you just got to get in and get your hands dirty, because we don't know if 11 cancellation days is an anomaly or something that will happen every other year in the, in the current weather patterns or whatever. Who knows? But e-learning can be used for so many things, and it really aligns with that 21st century learning where students are doing what they need to do to get them to where they want to go. And when they're participating in activities, when they have work experiences, when they're ill, even if they're excluded from school because of something like, well, they got suspended. I know you were talking about your detentions, but we won't ask you if you had suspensions. But they should still be learning.
Yes.
If there's a safety reason why they can't be at school for a short term, we don't want them to come back behind, so we can use e-learning, for that as well. And so it's really has some great potential. It's too bad that we may not get, too far into it this year. But like I said, I've already been advocating for then let's build in practice times into next year, so that no matter what the weather is next year, we get to evolve in e-learning, because it will put us behind if we don't.
Sure.
But it's not to replace what is the best experience for a kid, which is being in the school setting, interacting with their peers, collaborating with the educational staff. That's still the best model. But our busy schedules and all our conflicts of the things that we're doing, time conflicts, e-learning can really bolster that traditional model with this kind of hybrid model that most likely will become the norm in the near future.
Excellent. So what is the plan now moving forward with figuring out the next long-term superintendent? What is the school board working on with that? And if you don't want to answer this question, that's no problem, but do you plan to apply for it? Are you thinking about it, or what are your thoughts on that?
All right, so I can tell you, Mike, I've already applied for the job.
Okay.
And what I guess the thing that I can do to help the school board out is because initially when they were seating the new board, they wanted to get going on this really quickly. So I helped get out a request for proposals so we could get, they wanted to have a search firm help them with the process. So I got that out, and they selected the Minnesota School Board Association as their executive search firm. And as soon as that happened, then I had to step aside so that there wouldn't be any conflict of interest. So normally I'm serving the board, but in this case, they're going to work with MSBA and take care of that. But I do want to take the opportunity to promote what they would like for input from the community, because they didn't have a chance to do that on the interim, to really go out to the community and get input. They had one continuous superintendent for 17 years. So this is rare for Hastings, and this is an opportunity where they really want to engage the community and find out what are they looking for, not only in a superintendent, but just the overall direction of the school district. What's important in the community, what elements of the school district are most important. So I will plug that the board has a survey. It's out on the main webpage of the Hastings Public Schools website. If you go there, you'll see a big announcement about the superintendent search, and you can see all the details you want, and you can click there and do the survey, which anybody and everybody that is a part of the Hastings area can do. The other thing that they're having, which are coming right up, is community listening sessions or community forums on face-to-face with the school board, where people can get a little bit more in detail and actually interact instead of only one way on a survey. So those are going to be Thursday, February 13th, 1:30 at the lecture hall at Hastings High School, and Friday, February 14th at 10 o'clock in room 107 at the Tilden Community Center. And then moving down the line, the board, the posting for this position will close on March 15th, and they're looking at March 30th is when they'd have their first round of interviews. And I'll have to look ahead.
Sure.
April 2nd would be their second round of interviews. So you're looking at April, they'd like to have identified who the regular superintendent is going to be, their ongoing superintendent is going to be. But right now, they're asking for help from the community.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, a couple rapid fire questions, just so the community can get to know you a little bit before I let you go. All right, this is kind of like a lightning round. Top hobbies?
I just love outdoor stuff, outdoor exercise, outdoor activities. So yeah, I'm happiest when I'm outside, and I get a little sad if I can't get outside.
Excellent. What type of music do you listen to?
Oh, wow. I'm just a huge music fan. I love going to live music. I always have. My daughter in particular has developed the same affinity, so now we actually go out to concerts and stuff together. Rapid fire, my two all-time favorites are Bruce Springsteen and Jackson Brown.
Awesome.
So, but
awesome.
I love new music as well, and I learn a lot of new music just by hanging around with my daughter.
Yeah,
so
and
I continue to evolve.
And all the students in the district, I'm sure you're hearing about all kinds of music. Okay, favorite movie or TV show?
Oh, my favorite movie of all time was serious one was Deer Hunter.
Okay.
And lighthearted one is Napoleon Dynamite.
Oh, nice. Do you have any tots? Oh.
Nice, yeah. I could see you following up on maybe a Napoleon impersonation or something.
Good, excellent. I could do that.
And did you ask about TV show?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, go ahead, TV show.
Well, I'm not even sure what kind of stuff I've been watching lately, other than some little mini series on Netflix or like Game of Thrones or whatever. I thought that was pretty exciting. My all-time favorite TV show, this is going to date me because people won't even know what it was Northern Exposure.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
The writing and the characters were amazing, and that's what I like about a TV show or any kind of mini series. I look for character development.
Excellent, excellent. Favorite travel location?
I'm going to have to say Mexico because I've been to Mexico a few times, but as a part of my doctoral research that I did, I ended up connecting with this mountain community in the state of Veracruz, and now I'm kind of like an honorary resident of the place, and so I've been there 8 times in the last 8 years for extended periods, and it's kind of like a home away from home, so I love that place. Right now it's also a very dangerous place, really going through some safety issues there, and so I've been there twice. I was there late December, but it's a whole different experience when you're there now. You can't just wander around and hike everywhere you want to and things like that. So I've seen it evolve back and forth over time, so I'm hoping it swings back to being the relaxed place that I enjoy, because it's not a tourist destination. It's just like authentically living in another country and another culture, and I just really enjoy that.
That's awesome. Favorite food?
Wow. Is pizza too cliche?
No,
pizza and seafood.
I love pizza.
Yeah, pizza and seafood. I guess it can't go wrong with that. Pasta.
We should do a pizza party.
Sushi. I love sushi.
No, let's do a pizza party and let's watch some Napoleon Dynamite. What do you say?
Only if you bring a delicious bass.
All right, one last. This is more of a serious question. Creamy peanut butter or chunky? And the community will judge you on your response to this one.
I'm going to have to say creamy, and it's not really a difficult decision.
That is the correct answer.
Okay.
Cool, cool. Dr. Jeff Pesta, thank you so much for sitting down and interviewing with me and just giving the community a chance to get to know you more. So, viewers, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.